again, welcome back to the Movie Buff Reactions channel. Today I'm going to be doing something, and for the next few videos, something that's a little different than what I usually do. Today I'm going to be doing my first Nostalgia Critic reaction video of the year, and normally when I react to the critic, I usually do it with an older video and with somebody who's never seen it before, but today's case and for the next few videos are a little different because Doug Walker, every year around March, he does a theme month, and for this year, because of the new Batman movie that's come out, he's doing the Dark Knight month, and he says he's going to look at all three of the Christopher Nolan movies and two others, I believe, just to fill out the month. And I'm really interested to do this because I have a very different opinion on the Dark Knight trilogy than most people. I'm not really a fan of Nolan's trilogy. I didn't really get into it beyond Batman Begins, and I have a very differing opinion of the Dark Knight compared to most audiences. So when he announced that he was going to do the Dark Knight movies, I thought I really wanted to react to his review of the Dark Knight just to see it through and give my opinion on the movie. But at the same time, I thought it'd be a little weird just to do that one and not the other movies in the trilogy. So I decided, even though it's more current than what I usually do, I'm going to be reacting to all three of the Nostalgia Critics Dark Knight trilogy reviews, and today we're starting with Batman Begins, the only movie in this trilogy that I really like, and I'll get into why later, but for now let's watch what the critic has to say, and hopefully it's a lot of fun. Doug's talked about these movies many times over the years. He did a pretty good parody of them with his old show that didn't do well, a demo reel. I know a lot of people didn't like that show, but he did a good satirization of the Dark Knight movies, so see what he has to say here after all these years.
Potato Baghead. Probably in the 60s. What does it do? That's not enough to destroy Batman.
Don't worry, Batman. I'm like totally here to save the day.
Batgirl, what happened to you?
Whatever. I'm like totally the same. I'm Alfred's niece from England.
Oh.
Without a British accent.
No.
Doing Batman Robin parody.
Fine. Just take a look at Mr. Freeze.
Nice to see you. Oh no!
Finally get over a bad scene with nipples on it.
Look what I recommended that.
Are you sure? Because you paid for them on your Bat credit card.
Classic NC joke.
Batman is dead. Batman is dead. No, he's not. Morgan Freeman, have you come to narrate my death?
That man is too powerful of a character to be destroyed, even by all this.
Oh, like did I mention we play hockey?
I don't wear hockey pads.
No, Batman. More competent people bring you back to life.
Impossible. There's no coming back from this.
Oh, yes, there is. There's in-depth character studies.
Okay, that sounds grown up.
One of the greatest Joker performances of all time.
Okay, that's pretty cool.
And one of the most memorable scenes in all movie history.
That happens after the bat nipple shit.
You bet it does.
Wow. And I'm assuming the Scarecrow and Batgirl are treated with dignity?
We still get hosed.
That's all that matters.
Thanks for that.
What? Let's see how things get back on track. This is Dark Knight Month.
Crazy to think it's been over 2 decades since everything went to shit with Batman Cinematic World, and almost 2 decades since it got back on track. We're here
We're
to
getting
look
old.
for Nolan's Dark Knight trilogy to see how they change comic book movies forever. That's right, most of them. And of course, have some laughs along the way about what still works and what doesn't. But the problem is, there's 5 spots in March and only 3 movies. So, I'm looking over the other 2 best Batman movies, Batman and Batman Mask of the Phantasm. It's gonna be a ton of fun discussing these films, so let's not waste any time. Let's start with where it all started. 2005, with very few people talking about Batman after the last movie, Batman Begins was the breath of fresh air the franchise desperately needed. Doing well, but not breaking any records. The film was almost a proof of concept to show that there was still a fan base for a serious Batman movie. And in my
Show that could work.
Groundwork for a lot of future comic book films. Just count the story and pacing similarities between this and Iron Man, and you'll see what I'm talking about. I will admit,
Yeah, I can see a little of that.
Batman origin story, it's hard to say it's the perfect Batman film. There's still some problems here and there, but the great moments still hold up as legitimately great. And there certainly are a lot of those moments to look over, so let's dive right into it. This is...
Batman or the Nostalgia Critic.
Yeah, how exactly does this work?
Oh, it's very simple. I am the Knight.
You never punchline, did you?
Movie's like 2.5 hours, man. I got a lot to get through.
Yeah, they are long.
Yeah, do I technically...
Hard to hear what he's saying.
This is Batman Begins. It opens with a young Bruce Wayne and one of the maid's daughter, Rachel, playing in the backyard, but he stumbles into a cave filled with bats. Thank God that's what he found down there.
Much better done than Batman v Superman.
Because Lord knows Nolan can't tell a story in order, we flash forward to modern day where Bruce, played now by Christian Bale, finds himself in a Bhutan prison.
You unheralded man, and I am the devil.
Mr. Devil, can you let me eat my cat vomit first? I'm sure the chefs worked very hard on it. Okay, first problem in this movie, the action sucks.
Yeah.
I know we want to do the opposite of Schumacher, but sure does feel like he took his close-up jumbled cinematography from Batman Forever.
Yeah, I agree.
Protection for them.
Yoshiki can nearly kill them!
It's too small for someone like Bruce Wayne to disappear.
He's approached by a man representing Ra's al Ghul, played by Liam Neeson. I think most of us figured out early on this was Ra's al Ghul, but I will admit, I thought it was going to be a bit more clever.
Yeah.
In the comic, he uses the Lazarus Pit to stay immortal, and I thought the idea here was Ra's al Ghul was an identity that was passed down over the years. So after Ra's, played by Ken Watanabe, dies, this one takes his place. In a way, making Ra's al Ghul immortal.
Is Ra's al Ghul immortal? Are his methods supernatural?
But no, it's just a decoy. This is the original Egyptian Ra's. And you know, if these pass as Egyptian, anything's possible.
Hey, Connery can pull it off.
Here by choice. Whatever your original intentions, you have become truly lost.
You're a YouTuber, aren't you?
There is a rare blue flower that grows on the eastern slopes.
He tells Bruce to bring a rare flower to a mountain village if he wishes to join the League of Shadows. Jesus, that's some intense fine print for a download. Flashes back to when he was a kid again with his mother, father, and Alfred, played by Michael Caine. One day she'll be mine. His father, who speaks entirely in platitudes.
All creatures feel fear, especially the scary. A little bit of offer goes a long way. Why do we fall, Bruce? So we can learn to pick ourselves up. Never judge a book by its cover. What you see is what you get. Loose lips, sink ship.
Brags about how the Wayne family is essentially Mr. Rogers if he wasn't so lazy.
The city's been suffering. So we built a new, cheap public transportation system.
Your father nearly bankrupted Wayne Enterprises, combating poverty. Your great-great-grandfather was involved in the Underground Railroad.
Okay, I get them being good people, but this idea that the Wayne family has midichlorians of goodness passed down takes away.
Well, they got
that
Qui-Gon
any
Jinn.
person can be as virtuous as our lead. Like, you have to be born in a great bloodline of amazingness.
Is that where you work?
No, I work at the hospital.
Oh, Jesus, yeah, that's where I put my hands on them and they can walk again. They take Bruce to a show, and here's a shock. A kid doesn't want to stay for an opera.
Go.
We've been here for like 6 hours. Well, that's Wagner. It's only the overture. They exit to the back alley. As rich people leaving an opera do, where they're approached by a mugger and shot dead in front of Bruce's eyes. I barely got a line.
And then he goes on to Law and Order.
Come back to modern day, where we see Bruce training with the League of Shadows, and I'll confess I never needed to know what happened in between Bruce's parents getting shot and him becoming Batman. I actually enjoyed the mystery and them keeping it vague, but this movie wanted to try something different from the others, and it does it very well. His journey is really fascinating, and you feel legit transformation and growth from it. My only gripe is Neeson's monotone does wear a little bit.
You have learned to bury your guilt. I will teach you to confront it. To know how to fight six men, we can teach you how to...
I like it.
Jitsu employs explosive powders. Crime cannot be tolerated.
He sounds like a boring version of that Fat Boy Slim video.
Liam Neeson could never be boring.
You can go with this, or you can go with that.
Your parents' death was not your fault. The will to act.
You can go with this, or you can go with that. Cut back to years earlier when Bruce returns home back from college.
Will you be heading back to Princeton after the hearing, sir?
I'm not heading back at all.
I must say, sir, your progress is lacking. I mean, you're 35 and you still haven't graduated. Yeah, Bill doesn't exactly pull off a convincing college student, but to his credit, Katie Holmes as Rachel never pulls off a convincing adult.
Rachel Dawes.
Yeah.
Authorize that. Tell him we'll be
This
the only
bitch.
second on the judge's desk by morning.
I can't say she's bad in this, but she has the DiCaprio problem. She's so young looking, it looks like she's trick-or-treating half the time.
What chance does Gotham have when the good people do nothing?
That I never noticed. She smirks at moments she really should smirk.
Yeah.
You may not have killed your parents, man. I love. You never came back at all. My boss has been missing for 2 days. Your father would be ashamed of you.
Why are you saying that like you want a really sick bet?
She smirks more than the Joker.
The man who killed his parents was being set free because he handed over information about a mob boss named Falcone. Bruce is about to get revenge, but literally misses his shot. Dude, that was my kill! He goes to confront Falcone, played by Tom Wilkinson. But big surprise, he ain't all that scared.
Not everyone in Gotham's afraid of you.
A couple off-duty cops and a judge. Now, I wouldn't have a second say. That's power you can't buy.
I really love this scene because it's explaining a lot of character motivation, but it's done by someone I believe would do it like this. He's telling him all this because it's Bruce Wayne, and he did have the guts to approach it. But he's also out of his league, not aware of the type of power he has. And he would show off that power.
Because your mommy and your daddy got shot, you know about the ugly side of life, but you don't. You've never tasted desperate.
The pro and con of Nolan's writing is that he lets the story do all the work, and hopefully character follows with it. This scene is a perfect example of that working. It
Good
sets
summarization.
everything in motion perfectly. You feel Bruce's frustration, but know Falcone is right, and he would gloat about it.
Don't come down here with your anger, trying to prove something to yourself.
Ah, the original warning that we're going to have for social media. He gives his coat and money to a homeless man.
It's a nice gun.
Maybe I'll start a costume shop with this. I might visit you if you do. And he enters sort of a crime world.
What was the fun you would?
Tell that to the guy who owned these.
Get it? He stole for himself, so he didn't really become a criminal. Again, I would have liked it more if he really did hit rock bottom, but it does show him stealing to help someone, probably giving birth to the idea of being a vigilante.
Robin
Surprisingly,
Hood.
That is one of the more believable elements in this. There's so much corruption from the people who are supposed to be helping that you do see why he would go this route. He also shows he'd do anything for the League of Shadows, but he won't do that.
Passion is a weakness your enemies will not share. That's why it's so important.
Jesus, some of these lines are good. They make the mistake of explaining that they're going to destroy Gotham before he kills the guy proving his loyalty, as they see it as a city so corrupt it must be severed from the rest of the world.
Like Constantinople or Rome before it, and must be allowed to die. It is one we performed for centuries.
Well, for the people who took down Rome and Constantinople, they sure are taken down by one guy with a sword pretty easily. You caused the falls of empires, but you don't put a sheet of glass over the flammables to stop the fall of yours? He saves the artist, not yet known as Roz, and contacts Alfred after years of being away.
Flesh and blood, I can be ignored, I can be destroyed, but it's a symbol.
I'm fine, by the way.
Yeah. Nice to see you, Bruce.
Until he finds out what influences are, he'll fit right in. Back at Gotham, we see Cillian Murphy plays Dr. Crane. Hello, caller. I'm killing you. Who's good, and I can see him playing the Scarecrow maybe 10 years later. But as with this film, he kind of has the same problem as Katie Holmes. He looks too young.
Very babyface.
Someone give him Allum like in a Looney Tunes short. He looks like a wax sculpture of Zach Braff about to kiss me. This is legit uncomfortable, but not the way the Scarecrow should be uncomfortable. Speaking of uncomfortable,
Apparently Nolan had a
one thing
man
back,
crush
Bruce is
on him.
already stalking his ex.
We've been through all that.
It's then that you realize that American Psycho is just one of Bruce's personalities to get Rachel's attention.
There are moments where he goes kind of Patrick Bateman.
He returns to his millions, finds a gadget guy played by Morgan Freeman, and puts the Batcave together. It takes about 50 minutes to get here, but by God, it's been built up great, and there is nothing cooler than seeing him put all this shit together. Again, I really feel like Iron Man and other future comic book hero movies really borrowed a lot from this. Granted, when he's trying to help Sergeant Gordon, played by Gary Oldman, he doesn't exactly have his graceful landing yet.
Yoinks! And away! Yoinks! And away! Yoinks! And away!
Falcone inspects. Let's face it, the real reason we all suspect Bill the Bear is still around. Bruce decides to let the bat out of the bag.
What the hell are you? I'm Batman.
No, you're not the guy from Twilight is. I don't know if I'll ever feel comfortable saying that.
Hey, they've all come a long way. Not sure about Taylor Lautner, but Kristen Stewart, Rob Pattinson, yeah.
So weirdly, Batman Begins goes from great to just good, ironically, when Batman Begins. Don't get me wrong, this Batman is a lot better than the last one, and I adore how well they got the comic book poses down. But not only is the costume kind of awkward, except for Keaton's, I don't think any of the movie costumes
Yeah,
are that
it looks a
great.
little
But as
tight.
everyone has pointed out, that voice.
This is just the beginning. If they hit the whole city with toxin, there's nothing to stop Gotham tearing itself apart.
Sometimes it sounds okay, and ironically it's when it just sounds like Bale's normal voice, which is already a pretty cool sounding voice.
I don't have the luxury of friends. Get these to Gordon. One for Gordon to inoculate himself, the other for mass production.
But other times, he clearly needed to re-record when his voice was going, or add some bass, or just stop sounding like a geeky dweeb trying to sound tough.
Taste of your medicine, Doctor. Where were the other drugs going? Look.
Yeah.
He's doing his Batman voice.
Look at this scene. He's shaking his head like he's bossing ass. It's just hilarious.
Cops only go there when they're enforced.
Do I look like a cop?
And look, I don't blame Bale. When you're in such a strange setup, you have to put a lot of trust in your director. And I just don't think Nolan ever quite figured out how to not make this look and sound a little silly. If not, very silly. Oh, and like I said, the action still sucks.
Yeah. I can't see anything.
I can make out more of the Blair Witch was shooting Cloverfield. But funny enough, when he's Bruce Wayne, the film gets insanely good again. First off, I love that this is the first Batman film that acknowledges the son of a bitch has to sleep.
That's your nocturnal.
Match may be. Leave for billionaire playboys. 3 o'clock is pushing it.
Not on a Twitch streamer schedule. I also love he has to
Everybody
sacrifice
sleeps
a
these
lot of his
days.
public image. He has to look heartless to people, even the ones he loves to distract from who he really is.
It's not who you are underneath. It's what you do that defines you.
Or
I am my...
you do. She seems really nice. I don't want to finish that joke. Speaking of people I'm sure are very nice in real life.
Everybody's been talking about you.
Good luck with that domestic dispute. I guess this stuff can really screw you up as a kid.
Holy shit!
He tries to bust Dr. Crane, who puts on a scarecrow mask when spraying a fear gas on his victims, and for what can cinematically be done with this character, this is pretty weak. I don't know.
Falcone's pretty wasted after that.
I thought it would be realistic enough, but just about everything around the Scarecrow, outside of the actor, bites. How many amazing visuals have been utilized with this character? Everything from the costumes to the hallucinations have usually been spectacular. This could have been like Batman fighting Freddy Krueger. There is so much you could have done with this imagery. This looks like a broken Snapchat filter. It's lame as hell.
You need to lighten up.
Tell all your friends about me! Alfred picks up Bruce and calls Lucius Fox to help make an antidote for the gas. Not since Vicky Vale was led into the Batcave has nobody with any sense ever cared about Alfred letting someone in.
Yeah, that's a big risk.
At the insane asylum, Rachel is getting too close to Crane's operation, and he sprays her with the same gas. The scene again proves this guy could have been a fun main villain if they only gave him more time.
answer.
Who? The Batman.
He looks like he's gonna sing in Tick Tick Boom. God, I wish there was more of this crazy in the film. We get the one cool image from the fear gas.
Who are you working for?
Okay, now I'm convinced a Batman Beyond movie has to happen.
Looks like the Creeper
But the cops are
from
called
Jeepers
and Batman
Creepers.
tries to get Rachel to safety.
Oh, you crazies are in there. I'm in a bat suit and I'm out here.
He gets his hot new ride. And while the idea for this chase is cool, again, it's not put together that well. The shots seem good enough, but the editing is way too fast and random to appreciate what we're seeing. He friggin' jumps on rooftops in this, and it feels like nothing. It is so wowless. Take the scene where he bursts through a building window, and that just cuts to him on a bridge. Let me enjoy that damage. This is the Batman equivalent of that Godzilla film where they cut away in the middle of him destroying something. It probably goes without saying this is done a lot better in the next one, but in this film, it is sadly very blasé.
Arrow on the ground. I lost it.
Oh my god, it just disappeared! It's a ghost car!
Stay calm.
Classic.
Breathe slowly.
Yes, woman sprayed with fear gas. Listen to the giant bat thing.
Don't be afraid. Breathe slowly.
Yeah.
So the antidote while also getting ready for his birthday party. Ironically, they got him a Superman cake.
Those are Bruce Wayne out there, sir. You have a name to make. I care about my name.
I really like the speech Alfred gives about keeping his father's name alive. Not Martha, that bitch. Her 2 lines go straight to hell. But his father's kindness must be preserved.
It's not just your name, sir. It's your father's name, and it's all that's left of him. Don't destroy it.
It's a very powerful scene that is contradicted around every corner. Literally in the next scene, he finds the now revealed Ra's al Ghul returns and pretends to be drunk and send everybody home.
Two-faced friends, you sycophantic suck-ups. The party's over. Get out.
Later they claim he
What a
burnt down
cunt.
his own house. So it's kind of odd making such a big deal out of this, only to have to shit on it constantly. Oh well, at least Rachel gets out okay. Not that it looks that way.
This is the worst winter, I'm afraid.
Good to know, Cosby. This totally wouldn't apply now.
You are going to release Crane's poison on the entire city. Then watch Gotham tear itself apart through fear.
So there's 2 really weird things about this scene. One is the League burns Bruce's house down, and he literally just stands there letting them do it.
Create enough hunger and everyone becomes a criminal.
Stop. Well, I'm Batman, that's all I can do. And I get their plan about destroying Gotham because it's too massive and crime infested, but then they openly say they played a part in that.
With Gotham, we tried a new one. Economics. We underestimated certain of Gotham's citizens, such as your parents.
Okay, first of all, Mother Teresa marrying Gandhi wouldn't be as sacred as these 2. Second, bad economies are often what leads to high crime. This is like punishing a kid for being no good after teaching them every day how to be no good. Isn't your solution also the problem? So
Yeah.
never get out of the burning building, and it's up to Batman to stop the League from unleashing the gas on the city. Even Gordon tries to help.
I'm gonna stop him from loading that train, but I may need your help.
What do you need?
Can you drive stick?
Thus Gotham perished because Gordon couldn't drive stick.
Okay, at least we get something close to a good scarecrow here.
There's nothing to fear but fear itself.
Alright, that's pretty cool, and we're back to sucking again.
Yeah, that was lame.
Sorry, comic book fans, we didn't want to scare you with too much cool. Holy shit, there's 2 Batman movies I'm in.
Yeah, that was a big thing for a while.
Impression.
It's not who I am underneath, but what I do.
I can't even finish that. And he tries stopping Roz from crashing a train filled with gas into the main water supply under the Chicago Board of Trade building.
Chicago's a good place to film.
Nice about theatricality bit? Literally.
Obviously, you didn't, Duckface. He gets Roz alone on the train with Gordon shooting the track so that it plummets before hitting the building.
I won't kill you, but I don't have to save you.
But you created the circumstances in which I died. We both know your ethical loopholes.
It's a great scene.
if Rachel visits him the next day, and if you really don't want people to know you're Batman, maybe don't leave a mask imprint on your face.
I never stopped thinking about you.
Then it goes nowhere.
Is there an item now?
Man I loved. He never came back at all.
You do know you just kissed me, right? So I guess they're just friends because that's all I have to yada yada yada. And Gordon sets up a new toy.
What about escalation?
Escalation.
If we start carrying semi-automatics, they buy automatics.
We make a good movie about escalation, we rehash the Ra's al Ghul bullshit in the following one. And I won't lie, when I first saw this, I thought it was some of the weakest sequel baiting I ever saw. And now, I can't help but get chills every time I see it.
I enjoyed it.
Taste for the theatrical, like you.
I'll look into it.
He's also mailing anal beads and used condoms.
Oh, hell no, I ain't going to that prick.
Thankfully, Joaquin
And that
came
was
in and
meant
saved
to
the
be
character.
flawed, but man, the good stuff really does stay with you.
Agreed.
It is funny, but fitting that in a franchise where the Batman stuff is usually the best, the Bruce Wayne stuff would stand out as more powerful. And even then, the Batman stuff isn't awful by any means, it's just a little off. A lot of that would be corrected by the next one, but as this film goes, there's still so many things that are burned into my memory. So many lines, so many lessons, so many struggles between strength and weakness. This truly is a great film about self-discovery and growth. Again, not perfect, but there are lines from this movie that are always going to stick with me. When I think of struggle and overcoming personal demons, this movie's story and visuals do come to mind. And I think it does for a lot of other people who love comic book heroes. As, like I said, I really think the blueprint for a lot of superhero movies of the past 15 years or so came from this. It's a good start to a good reboot, and of course the best was yet to come.
Well, not for
Our
everybody.
Nostalgia Critic and Dark Knight Month has just begun!
Guys, I'm away.
So, that was the first review of the Nolan trilogy, and I like that. He went through it pretty well. It's clear he likes it, but he pointed out the flaws. Kind of reminded me of The Unusual Suspect in a way. He's another reviewer who often reviews mostly critically acclaimed movies, and even when he loves them, like Lord of the Rings, he still makes a point to poke fun and make jokes at certain moments where you can tell they're kind of asking for it. And Doug made a very good point. The film has a good theme of overcoming being down, rising up, and that is an aspect of the film I really enjoyed. And I agree, the action is probably one of the weakest parts of the film, just in the sense that everything goes by too fast. Like, the only thing I can compare it to would be the action scenes from the first Bad Boys movie with Will Smith and Martin Lawrence. That's a movie where everything went by too quick, I couldn't make anything out, and this is one of those action films where the catchphrase could have been, "I can't see fucking shit." And it definitely got better in terms of keeping the shot with the sequels. And Christopher Nolan, he's a very visual director, very practical, and that's one big thing I can respect about his Dark Knight movies, is that he tried to be as practical as possible, more often than not. And I made a few notes because I have a lot of thoughts on these films. Liam Neeson, I disagree with Doug. I don't think he sounds bored. I think he really fucking rocked as Ra's al Ghul, and yeah, I do agree on the big reveal that he is Ra's. Isn't really that much of a surprise. Like, we could kind of see it coming just for the fact that it is Liam Neeson. And he didn't really go into it too much, but the child actor they got to play Bruce during the opening scene was really good. Like, this is some of the best child acting I think you could see, particularly the scene after the parents are murdered and he cries and talks to Alfred about how he feels it's his fault. And when I watched Batman Begins for the first time many years ago, someone I know had just lost their last surviving parent, so that scene kind of hit me a little extra. And the stuff with Christian Bale as Batman, Bruce Wayne, he's a little hit and miss, I admit. The character's writing can be a little off. Like the part where he said Alfred tells him he has to hold up his father's legacy, all that shit, and he's like, I don't care. That's a flaw. Like, Bruce Wayne is very arrogant and selfish throughout the Dark Knight trilogy, but in this one, it's not as bad as it would become, and Michael Caine, he really shines here as Alfred, and Morgan Freeman, well, I have very, very negative thoughts on the latter films. It was cool to see him here, and as a guy who helps Bruce make his gadgets, and it was cool to see someone other than Alfred who is in on Bruce Wayne being Batman, and just how they all work as kind of a unit, and that's how the work gets achieved. And let's see, the climax of the film is pretty kick-ass, and while some people might be a little mixed on it, I've seen a few people put their hands up. The part where he says, I'm not gonna kill you, but I don't have to save you, I thought that was just the ultimate badass line of the movie. And also when Liam Neeson, realizing he's gonna die, just stares ahead and closes his eyes, ready for it to happen. That was an extremely well done scene, and if I had any other cons to give, it would be, Katie Holmes as Rachel. She is really bad, and it's not just her. The writing for this character, I never really got into. I loved how Tug pointed out, she smirks way too much at the wrong fucking moments, and the way they wrote this character, it's like she's supposed to be a big moral voice for Bruce, but most of the time I just thought she was a really annoying bitch. And the part where he reveals that he was gonna kill Falcone, and then she scolds him and then slaps him. In that scene, I really couldn't stand her, because I'm like, you're all about law and order, but this is the guy that killed his parents, and well, it wouldn't have been okay. He's had a lot of trauma from that experience, so I sympathize with him more over her and her kind of smug, high and mighty monologuing. And Gary Oldman as Gordon, I don't really know how to describe my feelings for him in this movie. He has some moments where he looks like Gordon, he delivers the lines well, but most of the time, particularly in the latter films that I'll get into, he looks like he's about 5 seconds away from shitting his pants. Like, I know it may seem a bit over the top, but that's the best way I can describe Oldman and some of the other people in this trilogy. Their acting comes off as constipation acting. Like, they always are kind of moving around, particularly Gary Oldman, where he's like, with that mustache curled over. And not to knock the mustache, but on him, it doesn't really do him any favors. He just looks like he's this close to shitting his pants, and he's trying to hold it in, and therefore he's under a lot of stress. That's the best thing that I can really think to describe him in this. And other than that, can't think of anything to list, otherwise this becomes its own review. But yeah, I really like this. It was funny. The opening sketch where he makes fun of Batman Robin, I wasn't sure about that at first, but it got really fun as they went into, after that, everybody thought it was done. I mean, even George Clooney thought they wrecked the franchise, but then they brought it back, and they fucking went with it, and I am really looking forward to seeing what he has to say about The Dark Knight, because, once again, I have a very, very differing opinion of that movie compared to Doug and most moviegoers, so Look forward to what he has to say, and hopefully you enjoyed my reaction. I know I'm probably a bit ramblish at the end, but that's how I can get, and if there's anything else I can say. I kind of wish Rutger Hauer had gotten a bit of a shout out. I mean, I know he's not in the film much as the guy who's running Wayne Enterprises and is kind of a dick, but that's fucking Roy Batty. Maybe give him a shout out, but other than that, good review. Enjoyed it, and again, it's the only Nolan Batman film that I really got into, and I still look back on fondly. I could watch again, and I'm gonna go take a quick break, and then we do the Dark Knight, probably, at least from my point of view, the most overrated action movie of the past 15 years.